starts right now on West Dakota Fox News at 9.
The end of winter is finally in sight. Today we got our first taste of warm weather for the first time in 144 days. After an unusually long winter, spring is finally sneaking in. Good evening, I'm Molly Martinez. Let's take it over right away to meteorologist Josh Cattermas, who has even more good news for us. The Great American Bike Race is just 1 week away, and this year they're doing things a little differently. The North Dakota State Penitentiary is chipping in with prisoners on the pedals. It's all to raise money for children and young adults with cerebral palsy. Danielle Hurtado was there and shows us how much money was raised.
Molly, between the Missouri River Correctional Center and the state penitentiary, inmates raised nearly $7,000. But how they raised it and why is the biggest takeaway.
3, 2, 1, go!
Tour de France, or the state penitentiary. Inmates strapped in to raise for a cause and donate.
From my personal money that I made from working in here, so making sacrifices, good sacrifices though.
18 teams filled with enthusiasm and motivation, but one team has an extra inspiration.
We got this little girl named Nora Jean Frank, and that's why.
Seibel says Nora is an inmate's relative with cerebral palsy.
She's had multiple surgeries at the age of 2 years old.
His team raised more than $1,300.
Guys would literally go and cancel their commissary just to donate $2 or $3. You know, that's a big thing. You know, especially in here.
We might be in a bad situation that we're in, but people are in a worse situation than we are. So it's nothing to help somebody else in need when you can.
Staff in the jail were also in on the fun, including the warden.
A really uplifting event.
She says inmates were excited to put their 2 cents in.
They're proud of what they can do. And behind these walls, there's not a lot that they can do.
A race they will remember long past the finish line. For NBC North Dakota News, I'm Daniela Furtado.
Well, today is 420, and supporters of marijuana reform spent the day rallying at the Capitol. There were booths where people could sign ballot measures. That includes an anti-corruption amendment, legalization of marijuana, and they'll need enough signatures to get these proposed ideas into voting booths by November.
There is a way, if you want to create change and create a better North Dakota, there's a way to go around our elected representatives when they fail us.
Organizers said about 100 people showed up at the rally. Legalize ND is an initiative to legalize recreational marijuana for anyone over the age of 21. The leader of the movement says he believes this will pass because it will help agricultural revenues as well as keep people out of jail.
So I realize the state has diverse opinions and diverse ideas. What works for Fargo may not work for Bismarck. In fact, it probably won't work for Bismarck. They're different cities. And so we've left this bill fairly open-ended.
The petition must have 13,400 signatures before it can get on the ballot. Owen says right now they have about 11,000. Minot police say a person of interest in a shooting incident earlier this week has turned herself in on unrelated warrants. Police have been looking for 33-year-old Crystal Johnson in their investigation into the shooting of a 54-year-old man. That shooting happening in the 300 block of 10th South Street Southeast. Police say they did not issue an arrest warrant for Johnson, but wanted to speak with her about the incident. The man was treated and released. As we mentioned before, we're getting a better idea of what measures we'll likely see on the November ballot. They include the repeal of the state's blue laws, which would end restrictions on businesses from operating between midnight and noon on Sundays, legalization of recreational marijuana use, and personal vehicle plates for volunteer first responders, which would get them in a free pass to state parks. And the Fair Wage Act, which would raise the minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $15 in 2021. The minimum wage would increase incrementally each year.
There definitely are local races because all the cities in North Dakota have their elections on that day. A lot of schools, boards have their elections on that day, and so it is an election that shouldn't be overlooked by the people because it's the one that's the closest to them.
Meantime, state leaders are asking a federal judge to delay a ruling after finding some problems with the state's voter identification laws. U.S. District Judge Daniel Hovland agreed to expand the proof of identity for Native Americans, and they can use elections and eliminate a requirement that those documents include residential street addresses. Deputy Secretary of State Jim Sirlum says that part of the ruling is unworkable. He says some with only a post office box could vote in a precinct where they don't live. Several people on the Turtle Mountain Reservation claimed the voter identification laws were a form of voter suppression. Well, there's a new superintendent in town, and he's in Dickinson. The school system just hired Sean Hawker of Bighorn, Wyoming. Hawker agreed to a 3-year contract. Last night at the public forum, he answered questions about school safety, mental health, and the challenges that come along with growing enrollment.
And it seems like Dickinson High School is either going to need some remodeling, or it's going to need a new school or something. So there's going to be some great opportunities for the community to provide input into the next directions the district goes.
Outgoing Superintendent Doug Sullivan is retiring June 30th. Well, the company that built the Dakota Access Pipeline has contributed $5 million to the University of Mary's Vision 2030 campaign. $3 million will go to renovating the old dining hall for the engineering school. The other $2 million will be used on a workforce development program. Energy Transfer Partners says it needs more engineers.
Our goal is to produce a new kind of engineer, and that's one that has the communication skills to effectively explain their ideas, combined with the salesmanship skills to compete in the marketplace.
$3 million commitment to engineering, coupled with a $2 million commitment to workforce development in North Dakota, is a real game changer.
Construction on the new building will start in the next 6 months. Canadian energy company Capital Power says they're preparing to break ground on a wind farm project just south of Velva. Project manager Dan Moeller says the new Frontier Wind project would generate power for 15 states and Manitoba. The project will cost roughly $145 million and would be funded by renewable energy tax equities. The project would employ 100 workers at its peak in September. Crews hope to begin construction in late April, weather permitting, with the project being in operation by December. Well, this Sunday marks Earth Day, but residents in Williston are getting a head start. Today, they held an event called Ease the E-Waste. The North Dakota Recycling Services collected a variety of electronics, including printers, computer monitors, and scanners. Organizers say the event gives local residents the chance to safely dispose of electronics that are no longer needed while helping keep the environment clean.
We know we can't take it to the landfill, so I saw the ad in the TV, on the newspaper the other day with the telephone number called. It's this weekend.
Erase the E-Waste will continue tomorrow with a 5K run starting at 11. In Minot, the city is still rebuilding after the devastating 2011 flood, and city officials want to make sure if history repeats itself, residents are prepared. Reporter Molly Hurley shows us the signs.
I know we weren't affected in the flood, but we also helped a few families to move out of their homes and to get prepared for the flood to happen.
I was living in Fargo at the time, so I know a lot of people came up here to help, and we heard about it on the news, and it was really a disaster.
Darby Ness and Madeline Knutson are the artists behind these two signs, one of which will be showcased around the Magic City for many years to remind and educate people of the 2011 flood.
They're not going to be the typical, traffic, very stark signs. They're going to be, they're done by graphic designers, so they're a little bit more beautiful and aesthetic than your normal sign for the city.
15 locations around the city were chosen for the display, and each sign location wasn't chosen by accident.
Some might be on power poles, some might be on the flood wall, some might be just in a sign in the middle of the park. We're touching all of the major parks that are impacted, and unfortunately, we're hit pretty hard by the 2011 flood.
Both artists agree that they wanted to keep their designs simple, allowing viewers to understand the message behind them.
I didn't want the graphics to take away from what was being said on the poster, because I felt that the information on the poster was more important than what was going on around it.
No matter what, we're going to have a beautiful sign that's going to be displayed through the city to educate our community.
Using art to remind members of the Magic City of the past.
Well, if you stepped outside today, you were in for a treat. As Josh mentioned, we hit the 60s today with another warm-up this weekend. And one sure sign of spring, the Prairie West Golf Course is back open. The official opening tee time will be tomorrow morning. Dozens of people made their way to the practice tees and driving ranges to get their swing back. Dean Boucher is ready for his 11 a.m. tee time on Monday. He hopes his game shows up with him.
How do you think that first game's going to go?
I think it's going to stink left, right, and a couple down the center. So, but I don't care. You know, it's going to be a fun day, I'm sure of it.
If you want to get out, enjoy this nice weather. Tomorrow, the United Tribes Technical College is hosting the Thunderbird Run. Runners can sign up for a half marathon, 10K, 5K, or kids run. Sign up starts at 6:45 tomorrow morning in front of the Education Building on campus. A 17-year-old student is shot and injured after an incident at a Florida high school. It happened this morning in Marion County. Police say the school resource officer heard a gunshot and discovered the wounded student. The victim was rushed to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries to his ankle. The accused shooter, a 19-year-old man who police believe is not a student, was immediately taken into custody. Today's shooting happened on the 19th anniversary of the Columbine High School massacre. In 1999, 18-year-old Eric Harris and 17-year-old Dylan Klebold murdered 12 students and 1 teacher, injuring 21 others. The 2 committed suicide after their killings. Personal journals said they wanted to rival the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing that killed 168 people. Columbine was one of the first high-profile school shootings. According to a Washington Post database, more than 208,000 students have experienced gun violence at school since then. Today, students staged walkouts across the country demanding tougher gun laws. This was the scene in Allen, Texas. The movement gained momentum after the Valentine's Day massacre at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, where 17 students were shot and killed. Also in Texas today, crews are on scene trying to figure out what caused a multi-vehicle crash that set a semi ablaze. The 18-wheeler crashing in I-94 in Houston. Soon after, it exploded into a huge ball of fire. It's not clear what caused the crash, which also involved several other vehicles. No word yet on any injuries resulting from that crash. The music world is mourning tonight after the death of 28-year-old DJ Avicii. Avicii was one of the most successful touring DJs in the music industry. He retired from performing in 2016 following a string of health issues, including acute pancreatitis. His appendix and gallbladder were removed in 2014. His cause of death is unclear. Former First Lady Barbara Bush's casket is on display at St. Martin's Church in Houston. Bush passing away Tuesday at the age of 92. The public is invited to pay their respects to her from noon until midnight. Thousands are expected to attend. The official funeral will be held tomorrow. In business news, Wells Fargo is facing a strict penalty after the company forced customers into purchasing car insurance, charging unwanted fees. Federal regulators are expected to impose a $1 billion fine to the banking company. The hefty fine could be the first levied against the bank under the Trump administration. Now, if you're looking for a reason to get out of the house this weekend, here's a pretty good one. Tomorrow, many national parks are offering free admission. Depending on the park, visitors can save up to $30. National Park Week also offers a series of special events and free guided tours. The national parks will also be free on National Public Lands Day on September 22nd and Veterans Day, November 11th. And Josh, we're finally having park weather.
It's about time, especially if you're heading to Theodore Roosevelt National Park. It'll be a nice weekend.
Welcome back. The Great American Bike Race is still a week away, but some supporters are already joining in the fun. American Bank Center in downtown Bismarck took some of the stationary bikes outside and had a little bit of a food fight. Alan Martin was there.
I'm ready.
Just the kind of thing you'd like to have happen on a beautiful spring day.
Oh, is it?
Make a free will offering and smash your favorite bank employees in the face with a pie, even if they didn't know they were participating.
I made the mistake of leaving the office yesterday, and I came back and I was volunteered for it. So paybacks are forever, Kendrick.
Thank you. You're all good.
That marketing, man. Actually, you can scratch the pie part. It's really just a plate full of whipped cream. But this dedicated Gabber team always has to figure out a way to top themselves.
In the past, we've kind of done karaoke and we've done a community barbecue, but this year we decided to add the pie in the face. And yeah, it's pretty tasty.
Oh man, you breathe it right up into your nose.
Oh yeah, it's in my nose.
An event like this can attract the CEO of Sanford Health.
Take a deep breath. Good.
And a spectator who had some spare change.
Help.
Thank you, Alan.
Welcome back. Just as the weather is getting nice, we're getting a warning from the health department. Turns out ticks are also enjoying the warm weather. The Division of Disease Control started a new tick watch program last year. Veterinarians and zoo officials turned in thousands of ticks to help gain a better understanding.
We're really interested in seeing what different types of ticks are in the state. We know that the American dog tick is here. That's typically what you find when you're out on a hike. We know that deer ticks are in parts of North Dakota, but we're not sure exactly where they are.
Josh, I'm not going to let these ticks get us down. This weekend is meant to be spent outdoors. That is a job I don't want. Tick collector at the zoo.
No, thank you.
Someone's got to do it.